All right, so we have slope pretty well handled, right? We've been working on slope, and we pretty much have two types of lines, right? We have a line that's positive, right, going up that way, and then a line that's negative, and then of course there's varying versions of like how far negative and how far positive it can be, right? And of course all of these lines have had this form, right? Y equals mx plus b. So like an example, y equals 2x plus 5, right? They've all had numbers there and they've all looked like this, right? Now, there are two other types that we can do today, and that's what we're going to do. And if you're thinking, you've probably already thought about these, but we haven't actually got to doing them yet, right? So if you think about it, you have a line that's slanted that way, positively, a line that's slanted down negatively, and then of course, if you think, you have lines straight across, and you have lines straight up and down, right? Horizontal and vertical lines. So we haven't talked about those yet, and we haven't figured out what the equation is going to be for them. Now they're a little different, which is why we're going to devote an entire lesson to them, right? It's important that we can recognize these because there's going to be times where you might be whipping through some problems and you're doing just y equals mx plus b, y equals mx plus b. You know, you're marking your y-intercept, you're doing your slope, and then you go, wait, this one's different. So we're going to take a little bit and do this right here. Now I know a couple of tricks to help us remember, you know, how we're going to do horizontal and vertical lines. So first example that we're going to do is vertical, right? Important to know our vocab, right? Vertical is straight up and down, right? Vertical is the straight up and down ones. So if we have to graph a vertical line, okay? You think about it, it's just got to be straight up and down. Anywhere on this graph, it could be anywhere, right? But it's got to be straight up and down. You have to think about this for a second. So I'm going to tell you that the equation is x equals 3. That's an equation of a line. I realize it doesn't look like an equation of a line, what we're used to, right? There's no y, there's no b, there's nothing really, right? But what it does tell you is that x equals 3. So if you go to your graph and you just think, I'm not thinking about y at all right now, but I'm just thinking that x has to equal 3, okay? So the most obvious answer where x equals 3 is right here, right? If you're at the origin, you went over 3, and it's right there, okay? Now that makes sense, but that's not a line, right? That's not a line, right? This point is 3, 0. We agree with that. It's not a line, though. Now, if the trick question you gotta ask yourself is, where else does x equal 3? Where else? And originally you might think nowhere, but if you actually think a little harder, you'll go, oh, lots of places. Take this for example, this point right here. This point is 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you agree with me that x equals 3 right there? X is 3, right? That's exactly what it says. X is 3, y is 5. How about here? This is 3, 7. Doesn't x still equal 3? If we went down, right here, this is 3, negative 4. So what you start to see there is on all these points I just marked, x equals 3, which makes the equation true, right? All they're saying is that x has to equal 3. So what you see form here is a vertical line, right? So anytime it's x equals just a number, you're going to have a vertical line. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to that number. On the x-axis, you're going to make a dot. You really don't even have to if you don't want to, but you're going to know that it's vertical. So you just draw a line right on that line. Now, I know that's going to be hard to see sometimes when you're drawing it with your pencil or your pen, but again, you just go up, and that's your line. Okay? Now, the second tricky part here is what the heck is the slope of this line? Right? Now, up until now, we've been doing, there's two ways that we really use to find slope, right? You count the points, right? Rise over run, right? We have to do rise over run. Or we can use the formula and subtract the points. So let's do both just to prove what's going on here, right? Let's just say I start at 3, 0, and I go up. I have this point, I'm gonna go to that point. I'm gonna go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5, right? I rose 5. I went left or right from here. I went left or right, 0. Right? So this gives us this weird symbol of 5 over 0. Now, if you remember this from a math lesson you might have been taught before, or you can go ahead and put it into your calculator if you have one close by. The calculator will spit back a weird answer. It'll say error, it'll say undefined. So what we really mean is, if you've heard this in math before, you can never divide by 0, right? You can't take something and then divide it into 0 pieces. It doesn't make any sense, right? So the slope of every single vertical line, we just write as undefined. This is the slope of every single vertical line ever. That's the slope. I know it's not a number answer. It's the only time your slope's not going to have a number answer, but it's undefined. Okay? So, you have this. If we did the formula, think about the slope formula, right? It would have been 5 minus 0 on the top, and 3 minus 3 on the bottom. So it would have been 5 over 0. Same thing, right? Just depends on how you want to do it. But your answer will still always be undefined. Anytime you have 0 on the bottom, it's undefined. Okay? That's vertical lines, right there. Switch to horizontal. Obviously, if vertical goes up and down, horizontal is going to go side to side. Alright? Think about horizontal lines go like that. Remember, if you want to think about it, it's like the horizon, like the sun comes up over the horizon, so if you need that. So, what the equations for this will look like is y equals 3. Now, if we actually think about this, this one is closer to slope-intercept form, right? Y equals 3. What am I missing here? I'm just missing a slope, right? But if there's no x there, wouldn't you say that there's a 0 in front of the x? You could do the same thing, right? So it could be y equals 0x plus 3. That could be exactly the same thing. So actually, that's all this is saying. So before you even do this, you can tell me that the slope of this line is 0 and the y-intercept is 3. When we go to graph that, I think these might be the horizontal ones might be a little easier, right? If you have, you go to 3, that's your y-intercept, right? Now, if you follow this logically, if we have a whole number here, wouldn't you say that the slope could be 0 over 1, right? We do that every time we have a whole number. So we rise 0 and we go over 1. We rise 0, we go over 1. We can do it the other way, right? You start to see a line that is horizontal forming. Other way you could think about it is y has to always be equal to 3, right? So there y is 3. That's 0, 3, right? Over here, this last point I just did, that's 2, 3, right? If I pick this one, that's 5, 3. So you start to see that all of those lines have y equals 3. So what you'll get is this horizontal line. So you want to draw that line all the way across. If you want to add the arrows to the end, that might just make it easier for you or your teacher to actually see what's going on, right? So the slope of every single horizontal line is 0, always. It's always going to be flat like that, right? It's not slopes up, it's not slope positive, it's not slope negative, it's just flat slope. It's not doing anything, okay? Now, we have an easy way to remember these two, because I think the problem could be when you get to the x equals or the y equals without the other variable in it, you get to be a little confused. So come up with like a decent mnemonic to remember how to do this, right? So it's typed there already for you, right? So the one that goes together is VUX, right? We have VUX, V-U-X. So the V stands for vertical. It's already typed there. The U stands for undefined, which is what the slope would be. And then the X just stands for the X equals, right? The equation of a vertical line looks like X equals, and then the slope is always going to be undefined. Whereas the second part of it is HOI. So it's VUX, HOI together, right? This obviously stands for horizontal. This is a 0 actually, right? It's not an O, it's a 0 for 0 slope. And then of course this is the equation will be y equals. So if you can remember this, vertical undefined x equals go together, horizontal 0 y equals go together, it might help you a little bit as we go to do these. Okay, let's do 2 practice problems where we have to decide which one we're going to do here. And again, this was supposed to be a decently simple lesson. We just want to make sure we know how to actually do this. So the first one at the bottom there is x equals -2. So you're going to go to your graph where x is -2, so that's over here. If you look back, you think Vux Hoy, x equals, that's a vertical line. So I'm just going to draw a vertical line straight through -2 all the way up and down. And then I know, because that's an up and down line, that my slope is going to be undefined. Slope is going to be undefined. Okay? Second one at the bottom, this is the last one we're going to do for this lesson, is y equals 5. Right? So you want to go to where y equals 5. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up here. You know the slope is 0 here, so you're just going to go straight across. So that red line is going to be y equals 5, so the slope is 0. You can write the word or you can just put the number. Either one is correct, right? And that's how we do horizontal vertical lines, right? Just a little tweak to how we've been doing slope, but those are the 4 types of slope you now know, right? You know positive goes that way, negative goes that way, obviously horizontal and vertical, okay? Try the practice problems.